What's up, guys, gals, and non-binary pals? Welcome back to my channel. I'm Ann Richmond, aka Hearthsinger, the head bard in charge around these parts, and today I'm going to be giving you some tips on how to create a consistently meeting D&D game. I get asked a lot about how I've managed to be in 6 regularly meeting campaigns and break the curse of having a campaign start and then diminish into the fine morning mist. Honestly, I've been in several that have been running for over a year. The reason I've been able to get to that point is because I've done a lot of living, and I'm a little crazy because I probably play a little too much, but I mean, how much is too much, honestly? The truth is, I've had to sort of learn what to look for to make sure that I am finding a group that's gonna be right for me. And I've worked a little bit this week to distill the 5 major tips for making sure you are creating a consistent Dungeons & Dragons campaign. Let's go. Tip number 1, you're going to need to know the types of people you enjoy playing with. And that means you have to walk before you can run. You should try a bunch of different one-shots. You should meet different people playing the game. Right now, at the time of the creation of this video, we're in the middle of COVID-19, and that can seem a little bit hard, but there are tons of Discord servers out there and communities. My Discord is pretty great, so I'll leave the information in the info section below the video if you want to join our community of baby bards. I know that sounds kind of rich coming from me since I've already said I've already found the people that I like to play with, but the truth is that didn't happen overnight. I had to work consistently at experiencing new tables and new playstyles before I figured out what would work best for me, what was worth investing my time in, and met a bunch of people that I thought would be great. And now I tend to be the person that people come to when they want to build a table and they want to include me and get me, of course, to find all the rest of the people, which is a thing. In my group of friends, I've weirdly become this D&D shadow broker. Tip number 2, know your limitations. Don't overcommit yourself. If you think you really only can commit to consistently meeting once a month, there are plenty of campaigns that do that. If you are the kind of person who wants to make a weekly game a consistent part of your week and an energy focus, then there are people who want that. Where I think people run into some easily avoided trouble is when they overcommit themselves. That means that you become the flake, and frankly, the community, while super large and awesome, also talks. And if your group of friends decides, oh, well, they're a really fun player, but it's really hard to meet because they never can make it on time or they cancel at the last minute, you know, it's way better to be honest with that and upfront about it in the beginning. Or even have a rule at your table that if someone has to miss a game, as long as you can get 3 players plus the GM together, you're definitely going to go forward with it, even if that person has to miss some of the action. Tip number 3, how flexible are you willing to be? Once you know what your limitations are, you can now paint in where you can bend before you break. Do you need other players who are willing to learn the Roll20 platform, or are you willing to teach people, or are you willing to just play theater of the mind for people who don't want to get into learning it? How far are you willing to travel in order to get to your game? I, for one, played in a group of awesome people from all over the New York State area, and it was always easier for me to get to the game because it took place in New York City where I lived. But we had people driving from as far away as Boston, and in a way, though I loved that game more than anything, I do think that while we only met once a month, it was sort of doomed to fail before it started, just simply because so many people had to give up so much time and energy in order to make it happen. When you have that many people bending that much, something's gonna give. When it comes to figuring out how flexible everybody is willing to be, I find that games end up being more consistently committed when everybody's making the same kind of sacrifice. Tip number 4, everybody at the table needs to want to play the same game. That means frequency of play, campaign, style, setting. It all has to align. You need to be able to have these frank conversations before you start playing, or you end up running yourself ragged trying to play catch up with the communication later on. You will save yourself a world of trouble if you simply sit down with players and say, hey, this game is a game I want to play every single week. I get if that's not right for you, Ted. I don't know who's Ted. It doesn't matter. If it's not right for you, Ted, I totally get if you want to find a game that is a little more casual. I also have a friend who's pretty frank about the fact that once it gets past 10 p.m., she just starts falling asleep. So she often tells us when we start a game, guys, we got to make sure we start at X time, because if we start much later, we're only going to be able to play for 2 hours before I'm just going to be useless. All of those things are necessary conversation pieces. Otherwise, you end up getting into a game that everyone starts to be frustrated with for one reason or another. Why not just avoid it? The last and final tip, tip number 5, bad D&D is worse than no D&D. Stop wasting your time just because you're desperate to roll some dice. It's worth it to go through these extra steps and almost honestly interviews with people to make sure that when you finally commit all of that energy to building your character and their backstory and painting a miniature and whatever else your dark rituals are for your character creation process or your campaign development process, that it's worth your while. No one has an unlimited amount of time. It's a finite resource. So make sure you're spending it on things that are going to create joy in your life. It's a game after all. It's supposed to be fun. If it's not fun, you need to have a conversation and either figure out if it can be fun again or move on. And that, I think, pretty much sums things up for this week. If you have tips for your fellow baby bards, by all means, hit the comments below and let us know how you create consistent tables for Dungeons & Dragons or other RPGs you might be playing. And if you enjoyed yourself here this week, by all means, give this video a like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so that you get an alert every time I post a brand new video. And frankly, if you haven't had enough of me, you can find me over on Twitch several days a week, streaming my heart away and hanging with the baby bards there. I put out new videos on this channel every single Wednesday, and honestly, being able to see the feedback from you guys means the world to me. Thank you so much for all the inspiration you cast on me from week to week with your comments. I love hearing from you, and it's really made a difference in the way I approach what I'm doing on the channel. So come back next Wednesday for a whole new adventure. And in the meantime, get out there and live your quest life. Bye.